Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again. It's Mishmash Monday, and hope you had a great weekend. A lot going on. We want to try and cut these videos down in length a little bit, so I'm going to get right to it. First thing I wanted to address is a good friend of the show by the name of Joel R. was joking in one of the comments last week. He says, you see those hex keys off to my left, over my left shoulder? You see him over there? He says, yeah, I see those hex keys just getting more and more dusty every day. And it's so true. You know, there are certain tools that I wanted to talk about real quick. And let's start off with that. Okay, Joel, here we are, all dusted off. And you can see what these are. This was one of my early sets. I must have 3 or 4 different type of sets. And I'm a firm believer of buying inexpensive tools to see if you're going to like them or not, or use them. And I'll give you an example. You know, you might go out and say, oh, I want a good pair of diagonal cutters. Now, you can go out and buy a Knipex pair and, you know, spend $40, $50. But if you only use them once a year, you know, that's a lot of money. And if you're like me and like a lot of different tools, I always found the best way to do it is to start off with an inexpensive set. These here were Pittsburgh from Harbor Freight. Funny that these were made in India. Okay, and it says 1004. It had the date on here, so this was from 2004, I guess. And what's interesting about these is these were, you know, on sale or whatever. Or, you know, sometimes they had that coupon, and they're real inexpensive. So I picked these up, and they do work good. You know, they're a decent steel. They worked. I've never had a problem with them. But as I started using them more and more, I opted to buy a better set. And here's the key. When you're going to, and I never liked this case that they have too much, you know, the stand, but I went with a better set because I started to use them more. Now, if you never ever use these, that's fine, you know. And like I said, they weren't the type that twisted or bent, but you want a hardened key for certain things, especially if you get into machinist work. Now, when I say hardened key, I mean that the keys are of a hardened steel and they're really good quality. Now, as I got more into machinist work, sometimes you do need a good hex that won't twist or bend or deform, and they're accurate in size. So I moved up to this Bondhus set. I have absolutely zero regrets. These are not cheap. I waited for them to come on sale. I picked them up, and this is one of my best purchases I ever made. These Bondhus keys are absolutely fantastic. And what I love so much is this company stands behind their product 100%. And the reason I say that is because I bought a set that had some unusual size ones. I called them up. They sent me new ones right away, you know, the ones that'll fit this set. They are a fantastic company, well worth the money. This might cost 4 times the price of the other set, but this is, you know, there's that old expression, buy once, cry once. Bondhus, best keys out there, guaranteed. Okay, next up, you remember last week we did this nice Stanley 1460 pry bar, and there was some debate whether or not it was octagonal in shape or not, and it is indeed an octagon. I'll show you why. First of all, if you look over here, I don't know if you could see it, that is 8-sided, and you can always tell because if you touch the 2 flats on one side, it'll have a flat on the edge. And compare that to most crowbars, they are hexagon, and you could see because when you touch the 2 flats, you'll have a corner on the side, and that is a 6-sided structure, and this is indeed octagonal, and so that we'll put that to rest. Okay, next up, we do have some new subscribers, things like that, and they hear me talk about the 50-50, and we all know, anybody in this channel knows, the 50-50 is a lifesaver, so I am running low. We're going to make up a batch. Let me show you real quick how to make that up and fill it up. Okay, so as you know, you hear me use the term 50-50 all the time because it's such a fantastic concoction of chemicals that makes the best penetrating fluid I've ever used. I mean, and when I say best, I'm sure there are others that might be a slightly bit better, but for the price, you cannot beat it. This is very inexpensive to make, and how you make it is you buy acetone, and the bigger the container, obviously, the cheaper it is. If you buy a gallon, it's cheaper, but I buy the quart size acetone. Then I buy a multi-purpose. I get this at the dollar store. It's not a dollar, it's a Dollar General, but it's maybe $1 or $2, I don't know. It's automatic transmission fluid. You can use any type. Dextron, Mercon, they have, you know, different ones for Ford, but I buy the general purpose, multi-purpose one. And then you need a sprayer of some sort. This one you get at Home Depot, the Zep sprayer. It's I found this to hold up. The only thing is, I don't fill it more than halfway. 2 reasons. One, because the chemicals tend to separate the tranny fluid and acetone, so you give it a shake before you use it. And the second reason is, like I said, I only fill it halfway because this tends to expand and contract. So if you fill it all the way up, it'll leak out the top when you're not using it. And I always put it into a can. When I'm not using it, I leave it in a can like that. So let's, what I'm going to do now is you see where it is, you look where it is here, and it doesn't have to be exact. I'm going to put it up to 10 fluid ounces, you know, with the acetone, and I'm going to put the same amount in the automatic transmission fluid. The key is use the tranny fluid first, because this way when you add the acetone, it'll help clean out the funnel. And there we go. And like I said, by pouring the acetone, it cleans out the transmission fluid out of the funnel, so you just wipe it clean. But when you shake it up, it should give you this kind of pinkish fluid, and this is just the best stuff ever. Best penetrating fluid, and good cleaner too. Everybody loves it who uses it. Takes 30 seconds to make. Fantastic. You got to do it. Okay, next up, I have a rare set of pliers, and when I say rare, they're rare over here on the stateside. You know, they might not be rare in Europe. So if you know of these pliers overseas, let us know in the comments, because I have never seen another example of these. And they're pretty well made. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, first up for today's initial project, I'd like to introduce you to these very rare, and like I say, over here in the States, I've never seen anything like these before. These are the most rare pliers that I've seen, these compound style, and I deal with a lot with compound pliers, all different types, shears. I always like them. These are made in Germany. You could see here, I don't know if you could make that out, what the actual name is of the company, whatever, but it's Germany. And you could see here the construction. It's well made. Very interesting how it works. But before I start working it, let me clean it up a little bit. And it has a chrome plating or some kind of plating. So we're just going to clean it up a little bit, and I want to demonstrate it. Okay, here we go. That's about 15 minutes on the wire brush and Dremel. You can see we got... You know, it looks nice again, it's presentable, but now we're going to dose it with the 50-50. Now you know why I mixed that up today. And there's one thing you have to remember when using the 50-50, and that is don't be stingy with the 50-50, meaning don't be afraid to, you know, soak this whole thing, work it in, because these are traditionally, because there's so many joints, you know, you really got to lubricate these well. And then I'll show you in here, we're going to put the grease mixture I have, the 50-50 grease, because that has a little bit more contact area, and we'll put a little bit in there. And okay, this is after the 50-50, and you can see now it's super smooth, you know, but you have to remember that is not a lubricant, it's a penetrating oil. So now this is the time that you want to lubricate it, especially here where these little you know, there's no roller bearing or anything in there, so you want to make sure there's lubricant in there where those two cams make contact, okay? And then, of course, a little bit of lubricant in the joints, and then I'll demonstrate how it works. Okay, so here we have a comparison of a compound action. These are called nippers, and they're used for general purpose cutting, and also to try and get close to an area, give it almost a flush cut, because you could see how close you can get to that area. But they're general purpose cutting pliers. They work great on a whole bunch of things, but you can see here, these are the same size in length pliers, and you would expect now this, because one thing we Germans like to do is over-engineer things, you know. But I'm from the school, the old-time school of keep it simple, stupid, you know, the KISS school. So one thing they found out years ago, and they've really been pushing it lately, is the closer you get this pivoting rivet to the jaws, the more leverage you get. Now you can see here, this rivet is quite a bit back further from the jaws. So I'm going to give you an example. First, we're going to use the channel locks here, which you could see how closely that is up there. But we're going to cut a piece off here, and you could see the kind of pressure that I have to use. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this clipper. Same thing, Okay, now I'll have to tell you the honest truth, I don't notice too much of a difference in pressure. So you would say, well, why go through all this? Well, that's the whole key. You know, these are older design. Now, if you were to move this rivet up a little bit closer, I think it would give you a better performance. However, it would also, that's a breaking point a lot of times when you're putting tremendous stress on, you know, that bit of metal between here, a lot of times it'll crack here. That's where you'll see a crack form, because remember, look, you only have maybe just 3/16 of an inch between that rivet and the top of the crest. And over here, you can see you have about a ½ an inch. So this might be more durable in the long run. But I just wanted to point these out. Have you ever seen these before, these compound type? And look at the handle, the asymmetrical handle. This fits nicely in your palm here, and it gives you a nice, you see it's like a one-way handle. You could use it this way, but you can see it's meant to be used that way, where, you know, the channel locks, of course, are ambidextrous. Very interesting. I love to compare, love to try it out, but I always found the compound ones very interesting because that works on both sides. You see how that works. Just an interesting design. Okay, next up, another rare one. I haven't seen one before. Although I did another Bridgeport screwdriver, I've never seen a Bridgeport in this with this style and handle before. And look at this here. It's a little beat on. This is an eBay find. I paid about $18 shipped for this. Look at that back, right? That's been beat on. You know, somebody really... And the handles are super tight, which is always a blessing, right? But you do have some damage there, some chips. You know, the rivets look a little binged up. You can see there's a little bit of extra swell there. I let this sit in the basement for a few days to normalize. And then you can see here, on one of these, you'll see the writing. There we go. You see it says Bridgeport, USA. Can you see that? And you can see they made these rough, except for here. They ground it nice here, but they left this untouched. You can see it's got kind of a weird squarish profile where we usually have rounded here. Unusual. Never seen one of these before. Super heavy duty. Let's see what we can do with it. Okay, here we go. We're doing very well with this, right? Now you see we got all the angles correct, like we always like to do. We even softened all the edges, which you have to do because otherwise you'll feel a sharp edge on here. We got the ferrule nice. That was an unusual shaped ferrule. Got that good. The back is looking real nice, right? And now we just have to, you know, do something with the handles. Now, this is where you can choose what you like. You can leave them, you could just put a clear coat on there and leave them clear. A lot of people like that natural wood. I even left the tip. It was traditionally a little bit thicker on this model. That tip was unmolested, so I left it that way. But you know I like to do the gun stock on there, so let's do that and see what we Okay, here we go. This is just the stain. We just stained it. Now remember, stain does not give you shine. It just gives you color. So now when this dries, we'll put the shellac on, which will give us the sheen, and then we'll wipe it down with a little steel wool, and we'll be back when it's done. And you know my favorite part. Remember what this Bridgeport screwdriver looked like before we started. And we're calling this project done. This one here, always, these come out nice, don't they? I love square shank, heavy duty screwdrivers, as you can see. Let's take a look at the handle. Again, I did it with the gun stock and 2 coats of shellac buffed out, and you can see the grain. You see that in there? That's what we want. And look at that, you know, look at that grain. They always had that those nice handles. If ever you could keep the scales, always try and keep them. Look at the back here. You remember how butchered up that back was. That thing was really in bad shape, but look at it now. It's just beautiful, just like factory. Same thing here. Kept all this this unusual ferrule design, and look how these blend in there. That's just beautiful, and no sharp edges. They're all buffed and polished out. Look at it. And I love leaving those little grain lines on there, because you remember these things were meant to look industrial and something, so that's why I never polish these out. Even though they do have a nice sheen to them, you know, they're never fully polished, because that's what makes them look original. Thank God we were able to keep the entire Bridgeport, USA logo on there, and it looks so nice, doesn't it? What a sharp stamp they put on there. Again, the tip, just beautiful. That's factory tip. So this one is done. It's a beautiful screwdriver, and it's the only, like I said, you rarely see these Bridgeport ones. You see Irwins, you see other type, but never the Bridgeport. And you know, this one's just lovely, isn't it? Now on those screwdriver handles, a lot of you are thinking, boy, I would have just put a coat of linseed oil or Danish oil or teak oil or something on there and just left the wood. You can't do that. And I'll tell you why, because the oil doesn't stop the expansion and contraction of the wood, and that's how you develop the splits, the cracks, the loosening of the handles. So it has to be sealed, and the way to seal it is with a shellac, polyurethane, a varnish, anything that will seal it from the elements and things like that. An oil does not do that. And also, if you're going to put scales on, this is really important, if you put new scales on, always shellac or varnish or whatever the bottom of the scales, this is the part you don't see that contacts the metal frame of the screwdriver. Again, that will help with the expansion and contraction. You want to seal off the entire wood from the elements. That's just a tip. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you have a great day. Take care now. Bye-bye.